I think this is timely, and I think it will hopefully help a lot of parents, that kind of stuff, people looking into homeschooling, especially with all the stuff going on in the schools nowadays, in the school districts. But I just want to let you know and give you a little insight of how I started homeschooling and when I did that. A number of years ago, I don't even have that, probably 6-7 years ago now that I started homeschooling. I remember before I started, or when I was going to start, I was so nervous, and I thought, I don't want to ruin my kids' education. I don't want to, take years away that they're going to have to go back and do that kind of stuff. That's how little I actually knew. As I started homeschooling, and as I've learned throughout the years now, that was the best thing I could ever have done. And I feel bad, and I feel I've held my kids back and that kind of stuff because I had them in government school or public schools. So anyways, I got them younger years, so that's good. That was great. So anyways, I want to say, think of all the things that your kids are not taught or not even open to, not even shown in government schools or public schools, as they call it. There are a ton, and think of all the stuff, the garbage, I call it, that they're exposed to that they don't need to be. I call that busy work, just stuff to keep them busy while the teachers are babysitting, the 8 hours that they're in their education programs. So like that, think of the things that they will learn in place of that, the things that you didn't learn throughout your years of government school, if that's what you've done, you had to do. Like I had to do. I went through all my years of government schooling, and I remember when I was in there, I felt always, for the most part, that these teachers I had really didn't know anything beyond what it said in these books they were supposed to teach us. You would ask them questions outside the box, or questions that weren't in the curriculum, or questions that didn't pertain to the lessons they were supposedly teaching. Two, they really didn't know. Someone would give you a made-up answer, and then years down the road, or if even that long, I found out that was nothing but a bunch of bull, and the teacher was just covering her own behind, or his own behind, by saying that stuff, because they really didn't know. So I remember then, there was this thing when a couple buddies of mine, one buddy in particular, we, throughout the years, a couple I guess, throughout the years, the teachers called that cheating. In one circumstance, it was math. I was great at math. It just came to me naturally. I'm thankful for that, but for like advanced algebra and beyond, there was a person who sat next to me. He was one of my friends, and what he would do is, because you had to show your work for your math at this time, this juncture, and I was just overexcited. I didn't have to do a lot of that work. I didn't have to do a lot of it, so I had no work really to show. So I thought that was a bunch of hogwash. Anyways, I would copy off his homework, so I would show my work and before I handed it in, or he would do mine, to the same as his, and try to, write differently anyways, but usually I would copy off him for his homework, and then hand it in, so I got my homework, and then the tests, he would usually copy off me, because I got it, and I did it, and I didn't, it just came to me, that kind of stuff. So in the real world, if you're teaming up together to solve a problem, that's called teamwork, that's called doing whatever you have to do to accomplish a task. In government schools, it's called cheating. And why do they call it cheating? Well, I have my reasons, I suspect of, that I believe it's a big thing of control. They want to control, they want to separate, they want to divide, and they don't want anyone or any group of people to rise above. And that's my flat out biggest guess for that. But anyways, I'll get off that. So homeschooling is very easy. It's very easy. It's very, very easy. Don't be worried about it. Don't be scared of it. That kind of stuff. All you're going to do with your children is advance their education. The biggest thing you can do is read every day. And I don't mean just read a book to read a book, read fiction, that kind of stuff. Not when I did it. My kids were, I believe, what were they? 4th and 6th grade when I took over and I started teaching them. What we read, I was like straight out. We started reading hard stuff. Hard stuff they didn't understand the words and they couldn't really, say the words. But that was part of the learning curve. So when we'd get to that, we would look it up in a physical dictionary, and then they would look it up, and then we would discuss what it meant, how to use it, that kind of stuff, and we'd move on from there. So a lot of the books that we had read together, we would spend an hour to 2 hours a day reading. Sometimes if we skim through it, we do half an hour to 45 minutes, depending on the books. But we had a handful of books, whether it's 3 books or 4 books, and we would set aside, and each child would take a turn reading, and then they would switch back and forth till I found we were at different points in the book where it was a good stopping point, bookmark it, and then we were done for that day, and then the next day we would continue on. So a lot of the books we did that, and I think these are great books also for educating purposes. This is a young book for younger kids, but I think it's greater for older kids too. It's just a simple Who Moved My Cheese? You can find it in libraries. You can get it for cheap still. I bought this one used, obviously. And it's about understanding a different way of thinking. That there's some people that will think one way and other people that will think an opposite way. Well, in certain circumstances, the people who are stuck thinking, way A cannot move forward or beyond. And the ones that are thinking way B are the ones that are thinking beyond, and they're the ones that can continue to move forward. So I think this is a really good eye-opener, and it's a really easy read, especially for younger kids. But like I said, that wasn't my main point for that, because it didn't matter to me if it was an easy read. What meant to me was it was an education thing. It was a way to learn. It was a way for them to learn different skills that they needed to learn. Another book that we had was Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. This is a great book. It's been read many times by this family, all throughout. My wife, my children, myself, and not just once over. But great book, great read. I highly recommend it no matter what age, what ages. Like I said, my youngest, we started when he was 4th grade, reading this kind of stuff. And it's all about finances, a different way of thinking than what you're told, the way you're told to think. This is a great way to change the way you think and feel about finances. It just throws a wrench in everything and really opens eyes. Another one we have is How an Economy Grows and Why It Crashes. This is great too, especially for younger kids. It keeps them involved. It's a story-like read. This is also another great book. Well, all these that I'm going to show you are great books, but they have different things and different subjects and different ways that they're written, which I think is very important. We have this book here. This is a harder read, but when my kids were young, we read it. It's a very thin book, economics in one lesson, but it's a big eye-opener book. I think this is very essential, and I would suggest if you want to put a dictionary next to it or a thesaurus next to it, it's not that bad, but it's always good to have, or maybe show your kids that these are the tools that you're going to have available to you, or that you've always had available to you, that you can go to, look at, to find the answers you're looking for, or find some way to get you the answers you are striving for. Also, we have this one, When Money Destroys Nations. This is a great read. This is about Zimbabwe and their whole economic collapse that happened. This is why they got the $100 trillion bill. There's a great lesson learned in there, and this is what they went through and how they had to survive. And I think this is essential to the time that we're going through, because I feel that we're going to be going through a lot of the emotions that are in this book. So I highly recommend this. And then I have a few more here. So sorry it's taking long. I have this great book here. It's huge. A lot of reference materials to it. It's The Creature from Jekyll Island by G. Edward Griffin. This is one of those that it took me and my kids quite a while to get through this, because we only read, half an hour, maybe that was 15 minutes from each book a day. But we made it through it, and went all through winter, summer, and it was great. The boys were very interested in it, and it kept their attention. And sometimes there was times there where I would say, well, do you remember what happened last time? And if they didn't, then I would just give them a little, synapse of it, or a little guide over what we went through last time, the last read, the 15 minutes. So I just gave them a few, sentences that I just told them, and then they got caught up. They go, oh yeah, that's right. That's where we're at. But this is a great book. Highly recommended. Also, all these, I'm going to say that a lot automatically, because all these are I highly recommend them. But it's just me. I'm just giving my advice. The Ponzi Factor. This one here, if you have children or people, it doesn't matter how old you are, if they're interested in the stock market, they have to read this book, because it's a different way to think about it. And it's a different way to go about it, and then you're going to judge, and you're going to question, right or wrong, but you end up questioning, should I have my money or my funds or my digits in 401k or in an IRA or in these investments or not? I'm not saying right or wrong. I'm just saying this opens your eyes, and this is a really thin read, easy read, quick read, for you to say, well, I don't know what I want to do, but I'm glad I read this book because it opened my eyes to start questioning things or start looking at things differently. And then here's another Robert Kiyosaki book. This is Fake. This one came out a few years ago, and this has some sort of some overlap from what Rich Dad Poor Dad had. Not much. A lot of his books, a lot of the same points he tends to drag through all his books, or bring through all his books. And those are great points, and that's why. And they're very essential, I believe, to the way he's thinking and the way he wants you to think, which I think is great. So Fake. This is the little tagline here is fake money, fake teachers, fake assets. How lies are making the poor and middle class poorer. Those are great books, especially if you're going to start homeschooling. It doesn't matter what age you are. If you have kids in kindergarten, I guess I wouldn't start with economics in one lesson. That's probably if they're 3rd, 4th, 5th grade. At the very youngest to start that, because it's a little tougher to get through. It's an older read, but all the rest of these are pretty simple reads, and the understandings of them. This Ponzi Factor, maybe you want to wait till they're middle school or older to bring in, when they're understanding investing a little bit. And this Creature from Jekyll Island, just because it's just such a bear of a book, I would get into the motions or get used to reading with them, or have them read first before you introduce this, because it's intimidating how large a read is, and once you're going through it, it doesn't feel like you're really putting any dent into it, but you are. I mean, the only way you can eat an elephant is one bite at a time, as the saying goes. It's a huge task, but it's not going to get done unless it's started and it's consistently worked at. So anyways, those are just some reading things that I think that's essential and great. And if I would have thought about this later, I could have probably did the first few years homeschooling just reading different books on knowledge, factual knowledge stuff. These are all primarily monetary, and that was my focus, was monetary, history. We did some sciences, but in reading, that I did reading tests. I figured out what levels they should be at, and I just wrote up reading tests and that kind of stuff, and I had them do reading homework assignments to write a story every week with all their spelling words that I've given them. You can find different spelling words lists online for the age-appropriate groups that they should be in, or if they're advanced, where you think they should be going. And then I would do that, so they would do a story every week. And another great thing that I did after a few years, that I started doing PowerPoints. So they owed me a PowerPoint every month. And I started assigning the PowerPoints. So the first year I assigned them every month, that I want you to do PowerPoints on this, whatever it is. And it would be on the same sort of subject matter. So to try to explain this a little clear. So if I was going to do something on monetary, each of my children are going to do monetary PowerPoints. But I want the oldest to focus on, actually I gave them, this is what I would do. I didn't give them, I said you're going to do monetary PowerPoints. Sorry, monetary PowerPoints, but you choose. And I want it on anything from 1880 to 2010 or 2000. Anything monetary that really mattered from a decade or a few decade perspective. So then that was their task to go find out, dig through and see. And then they were tasked with, well, what do they want? Then they would bring the subjects up to me, and then I would approve it, or I would say, yeah, I'd go a little further. I would go a little further. I would add a few more decades to it, or add this to that too when you're talking about it. Just try to hit the points. And then they worked on the PowerPoint. They had a month to do the PowerPoint. I didn't look over their shoulder. Once the month was done, getting close to the month, like, how you guys doing? And then once the month was done, or close to the month, then I sat down with them. We would proof it all. We'd proof spelling. We would proof everything they had in there for factual stuff. Or if they're having 2 weeks, not a month, so after 2 weeks, they would come up to me, some of them sometimes, say, hey, I can't find a lot of images, or should this be copy heavy? And my take was PowerPoint should always try to be image heavy because it presents better, but you fight the battles, or you choose which way they're going to go depending on what the subject is. So, and then at the end of the month, or close to the month, that's when I would proof it all, and then they would go through and do all the changes, or the updates on the spelling, or if they had to rewrite something to make it a little more legible to other people, because if they're too close to it, they need those outside people looking at it to say, I don't understand this. Why do you have this here? So we went through all this stuff, and so this is after a couple years homeschooling. I think that was awesome, and that was great too, because they learned the problem solving and research skills that they're going to need throughout life. So anyways, I know this is long-winded, and I apologize for that. I'm going to get through this as fast as I can. So anyways, so what are they going to learn homeschooling that they would not have learned in government schools or public schools? And these are just some of the things I found. What they're going to learn is problem solving. They're going to have the opportunity to do, if you want to introduce shop class or something like that. So there's woodworking, and there's building, some sort of engine repair stuff, household repairs, plumbing, electric, anything like that. And everything be found on YouTube for the most part nowadays, or online. Almost anything can be found now. So if you're looking for something to show them, you got to learn it yourself first. Great. If you want to show them and learn at the same time, that works too. So there's that. Any sort of home living stuff. So whether that is cooking, healthy living, cleaning, upkeep on the house, getting to fixing up, like I said, plumbing, or fixing up an air conditioner or a heater, or just cleaning out if you have a fireplace, or whatever it is. There's that. Finances, they're going to learn, or they have an opportunity to learn a whole ton about finances that you don't learn in government schools. About loans, about insurance. Insurance is huge, especially on life insurance, that kind of stuff. Should I or shouldn't I? What should I go with? What should I not go with? Why am I doing this? And then insurance all around, like health insurance, vehicle insurance, your house insurance, what that means, taxes, sales taxes, property taxes, income taxes, all the breadth of taxes we have, the hundreds and hundreds of taxes we have. They're not going to get touched in government schools or public schools. You can address this. And then future planning. Future. What's your future? What do you foresee, or what would you like? So just start planning, future planning, no matter how young they are. Just dreams and ambitions. run a wild and just go for it. Career planning, family planning, entrepreneurship. If they want to, dive into something themselves, they can be young when they get start a business. Get involved in starting a business, looking at that. If they fail, great, because they learned from the failure, and next time they won't do it again. I mean, that's the best teacher. That's my opinion, anyways. And another thing we did, I should say, is I gave them a notebook each, or a journal style notebook each, and I said, well, once a week, we're going to sit down and you're going to have, I think it was a half an hour, or maybe it was 20 minutes, you're going to have this notebook, and you're going to have a pencil and a pen. And you're going to just sit in a quiet area, whether that's outside, or whether that's in your room, or wherever, away from each other. You're not even going to see each other, not going to see me, really, unless you have questions, concerns. And you're going to sit there, and you don't have to write, you don't have to do anything. You're going to sit there with it, and you're going to think. And my advice to them was, if something pops in your head, write it down. Whether that means a story thing, or something you want to buy, or something you want to try to accomplish or build, or that's something you weren't happy about, or something that made you happy, or your friend's name, or whatever it is, just write it down. And maybe that will start you going somewhere, if you want. But just write everything down, go there, and then once your 20 minutes or half an hour is up, if you want more time, talk to me. If you're in the zone, I understand, I'm more than happy to give you more time. Go ahead. And then the next week, or if you want to do it the next day, that's up to you. I left it pretty wide open to them. So the next time you go at this, you can take off where you left off if you want. Or if you want to wait a whole week, again, wait a whole week. Just save your pages that you wrote on. Don't look at them. If you don't want to, just ignore them. And then just start clean. Just start thinking. Or if you want to look at them and just go over what you started with, go ahead. It's wide open. I think they did not allow them to have electronics, did not allow them to have their phones, any sort of music or anything like that with them, because I think this exercise just get them thinking. If they're just staring at a bird for half an hour or 20 minutes, great. Because that's living the moment. That's just living life. Slowing down, if you want to call it that. But it's just experiencing life, experiencing this moment. Doesn't matter what's going to happen tomorrow. Doesn't matter what happened yesterday. Live in the moment right now. That's what I wanted them to get from this. It was a little rough in the beginning. They didn't understand because they didn't understand, why they couldn't have electronics and all this other stuff. But after a period of time, I think it really, really took off, and I think they enjoyed it. One more than the other, which that goes with different personalities. But I just want to get that out there. As always, if you like this, hit the like, subscribe, share. Stay vigilant, protect yourself, protect your family, protect your health, and protect your wealth.